Welcome back for episode 21 of the Getting Out podcast. I've just changed the name to make it a bit simpler. It was a bit of a mouthful saying Getting Out There. People asking, what's your favorite show name? I was like, it's Getting Out There podcast. And after a while, I'm like, nah, this is taking too long. Got to change the name. So Getting Out it is. It's a bit simpler, a bit easier. I'm changing the domain name and a few other things in the background in the meantime, but moving forward, this is what the name's going to be, and I'm excited because nothing really changes, but, you know, something a bit fresh. It's been about nearly a year of restarting the podcast, episode 21, so pumped for it. It's been a busy few weeks around the house. Went away twice in the month, which was huge. Went away with Fuzz the first weekend. We stayed at Dargo. We got there at about 11:30 at night, parked behind the Dargo pub for $10 a night, had a beer when we got there, and then we went up to Billy Goat's Bluff up the top, had some lunch at one of the huts, and then went up to Mount Wellington. Could not see a thing. It was snowing, and prior to that it was only 36 degrees 2 days prior. So 1 minute you're sweating your butt off, next minute you're up at the top of the mountain and it's just fluttering with snow, which was fucking awesome. So yeah, that was a very cool experience. And then we stayed around Licola. We stayed at one of the campsites near Licola and just drove home the next day. Instead of stopping for lunch somewhere like Macca's, we had Macca's dinner on the way there. We actually just cooked up whatever was left over at Yallourn North. Literally, that place is a fucking ghost town. Like, there's no one there. It reminds me of The Simpsons with the monorail, where the monorail used to be in one of the towns. It was just deserted. There was no one there. So it's going to be sad when they close down Yallourn power plant, because, you know, it would have been a thriving town back in the day. And unfortunately now, yeah, it's dead quiet. So sad to see, but at the same time, you know, life goes on. People move on. And there's a lot of different opportunities elsewhere. So you got to do what you got to do to put food on the table and keep happy. So, yeah. And then the weekend after, I went away to Montana and McAllister River, just out near Glenmaggie Way. It's actually 5 minutes down from Paradise Valley, down the river. And we went with the 4x4 brothers. They organised a camp out every year. And this year we actually our timetables worked out well, and we were able to go. So picked up the kids from school Friday afternoon after the art class. They really wanted to go, and then we drove the 2.5 hours plus to McAllister, set up our campsite and camped there for a couple of nights. And yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, I'm going to go through the things that I learned from those two trips since modifying the Prado. So prior last two trips, the car was pretty much completely bog stock. All it had was all terrains and a few in the secondary battery with the fridge. This trip, it's had the bull bar suspension, wheels, and underbody protection from K-On. So it made it much more easier, especially when it got wet. Especially some of the tracks with a lot of adulation and high parts where I probably normally would have sort of skull dragged it a bit. But most importantly, it just gave me more confidence when the situation changes, aka weather turns to shit, and not having to worry about being bogged in the mud or, you know, falling into a bog hole where I can't get out because the car's too low. So that gave me a lot more confidence, especially having new tyres and the lift. I think was probably the main thing. Underbody protection was a massive one, because I took the old body protection off the Prado, the one that comes with it. It's literally like 1 mil tin, and replaced it with 3 mil stainless steel. And the biggest difference is when a rock all of a sudden came up, it just went under and you didn't have to worry about the engine getting smashed. So yeah, just to go through a few things. And actually, you don't take for granted how capable a car is stock, or just at least with all terrains. All terrains is probably the most number one thing you have to do to go off-road with any vehicle. Highway tyres can do it, but once you put those tyres down to 24 PSI or even lower, highway tyres don't have the sidewall protection to save you when you get a puncture from... Sorry, you're more likely going to get a puncture from rocks and shale rock than you are just putting a all-terrain that has a thicker sidewall. And they're made to actually go down in pressure. They're made for snow conditions. They're made for tackling a bit more of the terrain, whereas all highway terrain tyres are literally just for driving on the road. A lot of cars, surprisingly, come with them. It's only now that they're really starting to put some all-terrain tyres on. Quote the Nissan Warrior. That I don't know if that does come with all-terrains or not, but I'm pretty sure it does. Like the new Prado 250 has all-terrains on it now because it's made to go off-road. It has a rear diff lock. It has all the sway bar disconnects and whatnot. So it's finally happening that these people are actually putting all-terrains on when they come out of the box. But really, it's not that expensive to go put all-terrains on. So just having all-terrains for nearly 4 or 5 years of owning the vehicle and going on some gnarly tracks in back in the day. Yeah, I was quite surprised and how much more confident and how much more you can be eager to do with a few modifications to the car. On the trip of Steve, the 5 things I learned from that trip is, thank God I put a bull bar on driving late at night, particularly going through the late night from Bairnsdale to Dargo, which is a pretty twisty, turny road. But the weather turned to shit and within 2 seconds, and 1 minute we were driving around clear skies, beautiful night, and the next minute we couldn't see a thing. It was freaky as, but it was pretty cool. So, we just slowed down to the conditions and we just sort of stayed on the radio. But there was one point where we had to literally 2 hands and wheel concentrate just to get through it. The bull bar also helped when you had kangaroos literally bouncing along the road and you had that confidence that, you're not going to be written off on the side of the road. That really helped. And having the spotties and the roof bar light to really light up the night, especially on a clear sky night in the middle of the country. It's eerie how dark it can be sometimes. And yeah, it was really good just to finally get to Dargo at night. You sort of drive to the gate. The gate's locked. You go in the pub, ask for the key. You give them $10 a night each and $50 deposit, which you get back at the general store in cash the next day, which is really cool. So yeah, we parked up the night, set up our swags. It was raining. Finally had the 270 awning on, and we'll go into. Yeah, it was the Dashi awning was pretty good. You really had to tie it down and put a lot more ropes so the water can go places, because it's weird how the guide ropes for getting the water down, the tag of it is underneath the gutter. So when you put the water, until that gutter fills up with water, it's like a seam. All the water just piles down all of a sudden, and it's a pain in the ass. So yeah, there's a few flaws, but you get what you pay for. It still held up really well. So yeah, it was good to camp there the night, and having that 270-degree awning, which is number 2 actually, is having some shade when you're traveling, especially 2 nights on the road, have to pull over for lunch or whatnot, especially if it's busy and you want to pull over for lunch. Having that awning, that was easy to pack up and send. I never really thought of 270 awnings as... I used to think of it as fluff, but having the Prado, having the Prado with the barn door at the back, there's not many that actually make it so the barn door is protected. But having this awning, I was camping and I was dry with my swag underneath. Could have done with the awning wall. That is my next purchase, because the awning wall is much needed, especially if you want some more room underwater. But number 2, we had a lunch at a campsite, and there was, one of the shelters was taken by someone else. So I just set up the awning, put the barbecue underneath, and we started cooking on the way we went. So it was actually really easy because we have to drive around for another site for shade. We actually had shade under my awning. Having protection like that straight away is awesome. And if you're going to be traveling in the rain, I actually do recommend carrying a gazebo. Steve had his gazebo on the roof, and we actually used it both nights because both nights it was raining that night. We went that weekend where it actually finally rained and had some coldness in Melbourne. And having the awning was fantastic for myself and just to pull over for lunch. But the gazebo really helped when you wanted that little bit extra room. Like 9 square meters is actually quite helpful extra to have, and it gives you a bit more confidence to keep dry. Yes, you have to carry on the roof, but having my awning and that together was actually really good for the two of us. And if I was seeing there was rain predicted, I'd probably even carry my awning on top of the car along with my awning if I was traveling with someone else, definitely with the kids. But, if traveling with someone else that didn't have an awning, I would definitely carry a gazebo on top. So, yeah, definitely shelter when you're wet is priority, and making sure where the water goes away is another priority. So tying it down and putting the guide ropes where the water can sort of channel in and sort of go away from where you're going, what you're doing, definitely helps. Number 3, definitely carrying paper maps is vital. I have maps to cover myself for pretty much the full high country, and having those maps was really good to have. I was able to see where the tracks were, how they went. There was a few warnings on the map even as well. I use just the standard paper maps you find anywhere. Having those and not just relying on Google. Like Google said, hey, go down this track. It'll take you to this place 20 minutes faster. It was a fucking walking track. Stupid. But it was able to, you're able to sort of have more confidence of where you are, what you're doing, because there's no reception out there. Unless you got Starlink. Starlink, you still got to rely on Google. Or if you got Garmin on your maps on your phone, still having paper maps. There's a few apps coming out at the moment which can do this, but having paper maps was essential. It was awesome. It was easy to have, especially when there's no reception. And there's no reception out there. The only place you get reception is towards Pinnacles and little bits and bobs here and there. But literally that's it. Dargo had reception, but it was good to, the reception from having the weather is fantastic prior to leaving. And yeah, having paper maps is essential for traveling anywhere, any track, anywhere in Australia. I highly recommend. I would not go without them anymore. And honestly, have a couple of times. And really, unless you're going too far away from main roads, I wouldn't even bother. So definitely go down to BCF, go anywhere, go to your local map place, just get a map. So I would highly recommend that. Number 4, I've never done this before, was power banks. I got a power bank extra from Telstra Awards for free, and it's a 20,000 amp or 20,000. I don't know what it is, to be honest. It's just it powers my lights in the awning, so I don't have to use my battery. But also having it there to charge your phones, charge your torches and stuff while you stopped. And I actually just plugged it into the car while I was driving. So I had full power when I stopped, and I had a full power at night to charge the phone from my swag or power. I powered all my lights from it. So definitely power banks are really handy. I never actually used it until this trip, and I was quite surprised, to be honest. And having a really strong one as well. I think they're about $60 or something, but mine was literally free. If you got Telstra Mobile and you get the rewards points, you literally go on the Telstra website and you can spend the points. And yeah, didn't cost me out of pocket. So handy to have, easier to use. Didn't have to run wires into the USB plugs, into the SIG lighters, into the car for my second battery. I just literally put all the lights in from the awning to the power bank, and off I went, and I just charged the power bank while I was driving, and it was adequate enough power to do that, and also charge a phone and the torch at night while I was sleeping. So get on the power banks. They're really good. Number 5, screw in pegs with your drill is probably the best thing I've used. You don't have to hammer things. You don't have to use a shitty pegs that come with the awnings or anything that comes with the swags. I've got the Super Peg 20 mil screw-in pegs, and they've got 2 hooks on it. I get the site, set up an awning, drill them down, anchor the awning down, anchor my swag down because I hate it when it sags in the middle. I've got a double crash pad swag. That swag is actually really good, except the mattress is shocking. I'm actually going to go get a new mattress. I'll just put an inflatable foam mattress in. That shrinks the mattress down. I mean, the swag girth down, but also it's just a bit comfier because that's what I've had in the past of the Cedar Summit. But back to the screw pegs. Instead of smashing down with the hammer, screw pegs, 13mm bit with the drill, you screw it down to the ground. It saved me in the wet, it saved me in the wind many times. I'll explain on the next episode what I learned from the kids' trip and what happened there, because we had a pretty funny weather situation where the wind was at least 50 knots and it was gusty, and we went from, not sleeping at night. Wind went up at 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock we were already packed up, ready to go. So that's for another episode. But definitely screw-in pegs saves time, saves money. You're carrying your drill, and and also for a bit of a bonus, I always say it, the leaf blower, the little leaf blower for the drill, uses the same battery as a drill. You click it in, and you can start a fire pretty fast, especially if you're getting late at night camping and you want to start eating. It just accelerates everything and makes life easier. So yeah, it was really good. Traveling with mates that you're confident with. I'm confident with others. He knows my limits. I know his limits. He's pretty limitless because he loves his Colorado. I'll have to put some footage of it later on. But traveling with someone that knows that, you don't want to break your car, you got to use it for work the next day. That's really helpful. So yeah, I would definitely always travel with people or at least if you're traveling in a group of people at least know a couple of people in it, because sometimes if you go with a brand new group, you feel a little bit intimidated. You feel like you're going to keep up with them even though you don't want to. Your limits of the car, your limits of yourself. You don't want to be fucking anxiety and stressed on the trip. You're supposed to have fun and relax on it. So yeah, I would definitely choose your crowd wisely and just don't go with anyone, especially if you're four-wheel driving, especially if there's some gnarly tracks. And if there's gnarly tracks you don't want to go down, just don't go down. Just chill out and relax and wait till they come back. Or they might even have to call you to help them get them out. You never know. So, yeah, that's what I've learned from this trip, Steve. And the next episode, I'm going to go through what I learned traveling in the group of friends, traveling with new group of friends. So, yeah, get a little bit out of the comfort zone. I've known some of the people for a while, but there was a lot of new people there. And that was an awesome trip with Dave and Mick West, so I appreciate that. And I will go through that on our next episode in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, share us your thoughts. What's been your best and worst experience on your first maiden trip with your vehicle that you built, or even a new car that you bought? What have you learnt? I'd love to hear from you guys. So go on our socials, which is now Instagram and Facebook, are all got Getting Out Pod now. So no longer Getting Out There Pod _. It's Getting Out There Pod. Getting Out Pod, sorry, fucking idiot. And yeah, the email I'm going to probably changing to a new website name. I'm still at gettingouthere.net.au, but I haven't made up my mind for a domain yet, in all honesty, because just going through different rabbit holes of what works for me, what will work in the future, where this can go. So everything can change. It's like your setup, camp setup, anything can change, like a website and domain name, podcast name, whatever. So yeah, I'd like to hear back from you guys. Appreciate the feedback I had about the kids. That was a very popular episode. The kids were laughing their heads off hearing themselves on the radio, on the potties. So if you want to hear them back again, let me know. Ask them some questions. Put some questions up. There's a question box on Spotify as well. So yeah, use that to your full advantage. They'll love to hear from you. So till next time, have a great one. Get out and have some fun, and I'll speak to you soon.